Hey, I'm Kristi Mitchell, and welcome to Unfudge Your Marketing, the podcast where we talk about what really happens when marketing doesn't go according to plan. Every week, I sit down with business owners and leaders to unpack the missteps, the experiments that didn't land, and the decisions they'd probably rethink if given a do-over. But more importantly, we talk about what they learned on the other side and what you can take with you as you build your own business. Success rarely comes from getting it right the first time. It comes from taking action, making mistakes, adjusting, and showing up again and again. If you've ever wondered whether you're the only one figuring this out as you go, you're in the right place. Today, I am so excited to welcome Jon Goehring to the show. Jon is the founder of Story Trust Media, where he helps brands build trust and lasting connections through the power of storytelling. He specializes in podcast and audiobook production, making it simple for creators and companies to launch and sustain content that engages their audience without the hassle. In addition, Jon is the founder of Jon Goehring Voiceovers, providing narration that cuts through digital noise and ensures every message is heard. Beyond his production work, Jon is passionate about storytelling in the community and serves as a radio personality for several local stations, keeping him closely connected to the audience he serves. With a master's degree from Newhouse School at Syracuse University and a background in broadcast journalism, Jon blends academic insight with real-world media expertise to help people share their stories in ways that resonate and stick. With that, I will welcome Jon to the show.
Thank you, Kristi. I'm really excited for this today.
I am super excited too. And for reasons that our listeners may not know, wouldn't know, Jon is the producer of my show. And so it's really funny. I've been interviewed on some of the shows that you host. And so we've been in each other's worlds and worked together in so many different ways. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm bringing you on my podcast. Like, this is so fun.
Never in this way. It's bringing it all full circle, but I love
Yes.
it. It's special to be here. And now I get to hear my own voice when I'm editing the show. I can be extra critical of me.
Yes, I love it. Well, I'm really excited. I always like to start with how did I meet my guests? So we were chatting about that before we came on air. Ashley Fico gets a shout out for introducing us. Funny enough, I still remember we were at a local co-working space, like renting office space, co-working space, Serendipity Labs. So we'll give them a shout out too, because I know they do lots of great work. I've done workshops there. Serendipity Labs, you and I were both there for different reasons, and I know Ashley, and Ashley knows you, and she was like, "Hey, have you ever met?" And we're like, "No, how have we not met?" So yeah, I feel like I feel like it feels like we've known each other forever.
I think it's been several years. I remember shooting that video for Ashley, and we were way up in the 25th floor of Innovation Square, and but it was great to meet you. I think we didn't do much together early on, but I had you on a show that I do, and then from there ended up working with you, which we're going to talk about today, and really excited.
I know. This was meant to be. I don't know why neither of us thought about this sooner, like having you come on the show and be a guest. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm also really excited. I'm excited for all of these conversations for different reasons, but the topic we're going to talk about today, I'm really excited to bring this story and your experience to light because I see this happen so often. And I feel like every business owner comes into the decision that you're going to talk about thinking, well, it's going to be different for me. Like, I'm going to get better results. So I don't want to give away the details here, but just to kind of tee things up, you had talked to me about coming on the show to talk about this specific experience that involves mass messaging campaigns where you're buying a list. And so what I would love, Jon, if you take us back to that point in your business and kind of where you were and why you made the decision what kind of led you to make this decision to try this out?
Well, early on, so I'm a podcast producer, audio a producer, content creator. And early on, after leaving radio and getting into the business of producing audio for radio stations, I had several clients, and I really, I was proud of the work I was doing for them, and they seemed very happy. But in the radio world, there's not a ton of, radio people don't always know other radio people in other cities like some other industries do. So getting in touch with these people, since they do kind of live secret lives, sometimes they don't even have, they don't even say their real name on air. Sometimes it's all a show, right? Getting their actual real contact information is really difficult. But I thought to myself, since one of my service offerings was producing audio for radio stations, and so far so good, I have some satisfied clients. I need to get in front of as many radio producers as I can, as many radio production directors and programming directors as I can. And finding their information through scraping it off of websites and that kind of thing was only getting me to, general, hello@stationname.com, just not very valuable contact information. So what I ended up doing is I found this opportunity to buy this list of people and their contact information. And I got excited because I was like, this is the gold mine I've been waiting for. And so I bought a list of thousands of radio production and programming directors across the country. And I realized that with my CRM, I could just input like the CSV file and it would make leads for all of them for me, which was also mind blowing. Cause at first I was thinking I'd have to copy and paste every one of them in, which I was willing to do, by the way. But, long story short, going through the effort of trying to contact each one of those through these mass messages did not work like I thought it would. For some reason, I thought if I just reached out and told them I was a radio producer and have 3 satisfied clients, they would be all over trying to hire me. But instead, I may have pissed off almost every single radio producer in North America, or at best gotten ignored. So it was a strategy that honestly backfired, definitely didn't work.
Yeah. Well, I want to give you a little bit of credit because the way that you're framing this, right, in terms of this is very specific people that you're trying to get in touch with, not like my business where my potential audience is fairly large, right? I help service-based business owners. Like that's a much broader category than radio producers and show hosts and those sorts of people. So you're like, these are super specific people and they're really hard to find. You tried to find them. To your point, they don't always go by the names that their real names. So how do you actually even know who they are? So it makes total sense. Honestly, I give you a lot of credit for finding this opportunity and going down that road because it does make a lot of sense. I've seen a lot of business owners just jump to it because they think that it's going to be the quick thing that fixes all their marketing problems. So I think a lot less strategy and thought that goes into it for other people who make this decision. Well, but what you're saying makes sense.
It's definitely a shortcut, right? It feels like it should be a shortcut. And to be honest with you, I don't look back and think I regret buying that list. I should never have bought that list. I mean, I certainly didn't get my return on investment on that list. It was a few $100s or whatever. It wasn't the biggest investment in the world, but I'm not even necessarily against buying the list. What I'm against was that quantity over quality messaging that I had somehow internalized and thought that was the way to business. If it's just a numbers game, if I can send out, 10,000 emails, 1,000 of them will acknowledge it, 100 of them will respond, 10 of them might become clients. So I need to reach out to 10,000 people to get 10 clients. And what I've found, especially in high trust transactions, so producing audio for your radio station, it's a pretty high trust transaction. Coaching, consulting, what you do, Kristi, it's a pretty high trust transaction. So that means that you're not just going to get a cold email from someone and think, you know what? Yeah, I'll hire you. You might do that if they're, selling you like, a sandwich or something, but you're not going to do it for a service-based business that's high trust like that. So what I found is that building relationships is the way to go. That's how I've done business now, through referrals, just relationship building. Buying that list wasn't necessarily the mistake. The mistake was how I approached those thousands of people, pitching my services right off the bat when I had zero relationship with them whatsoever.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's a really important distinction to make for sure. And I was going to say too, a lot of the guests who come on the show have this hindsight, right? That I don't regret it because I tried it. Like, it's better to try things than do nothing at all. And then you learn from those things and figure out, where do we go from here? What's the next thing we're going to try, or how would we do it differently? So I really like that you say, I don't regret buying it. I would have approached it differently. So let's talk about that. If you could go back to that day when you purchased it and uploaded all those contacts, what would you do differently now?
Well, to be honest, I probably, in hindsight, wouldn't have purchased it, which isn't to say that it was wrong to purchase it, but I think there's a better way to approach it. Maybe even, okay, so say I do purchase the list. I'm not going to look at all 4,000 of the contacts on the list at once. Maybe I'm going to take a segment of literally only 10 of them. And I'm going to just reach out and introduce myself and ask an industry related question, for example, or try to add value in some way. Maybe actually listen to those 10 radio stations for a bit to try and understand who I'm talking to instead of just mass blasting out 4,000 messages. Because the other problem with that is all of a sudden I'm getting ignored. The list isn't perfect, so some of them are bouncing back, and my email deliverability was dropping. And so I had a couple of issues where even emails to people who I already did know and who already did trust me weren't getting through. And so now you're just compounding the problem. So as far as what I would have done, the list isn't a bad thing necessarily. I don't think it would have been necessary in that case. What I should have done is just continue to build relationships, play the long game. I was trying to scale like all at once. Like, let's go. I got 3 clients. Let's make it 300 tomorrow. But the just business is a marathon. It's really not a sprint. And I would have definitely approached that a lot differently. Relationships first.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely love that point. And it's actually really timely too, because I'm in this business development group. It's just like a grassroots, like someone was like, hey, I always push off my business development, so I'm going to start hosting these power hours, and I'm going to bring some business friends together, and we're all going to sit down for 1 hour a week and do the things we don't want to do.
Great idea.
So it is. And so that's how I use my time, is to do my cold outreach, because I hate doing it. And I'm still, now that I'm forcing myself every week to sit down and do it, I am learning every single week, like, that didn't feel great. Like, I want to do it a little bit differently. So it's being willing to take a risk and try something new. And it's being open to the fact that we have to keep iterating these things. And I think also too, checking in with our gut, like, does this feel good? Or maybe we shouldn't be doing this thing.
Absolutely. And for me, cold outreach in general, in the traditional way, is something that doesn't feel good. And I'm not really doing much of it. Actually, I'm not even doing any traditionally speaking cold outreach. It doesn't mean I'm not connecting with anybody, but but I'm not connecting with anybody new with the purpose of, let's tell them what I do so that they can become a client someday. I'm connecting with people, but I'm trying to do it in a more organic way. And your philosophy, the marketing funnel, is really something that I've embraced. And now I'm spending that time that I used to spend, cold outreaching, and I'm using it creating content to help people. And that's worked a lot better. It also makes me feel better about myself because I'm doing something that I enjoy, something that I'm good at, something that, is my expertise. I'm living in that. And it's just a lie. All the things that we hear about business, about, it being a numbers game and trying to find as many email addresses as you can, mass blast them, and a certain percentage will come through. It's just a lie. What I've found in these higher trust transactions, these service-based businesses, it's really quality of your relationships over quantity of people in some CRM that you've built.
Absolutely. And I think that's the big difference between service-based businesses and a lot of product-based businesses. That's why I always say, like, I don't really work in the product-based business. It's a totally different beast. And I always come back to this one client I worked with. I still remember this. She talked to me. I don't even remember how we initially met. She talked to me and she was upfront. She said, I'm talking to some other marketing people too. I said, okay, fine. She came back to me. She's like, Kristi, they all talk to me like I'm selling widgets. And it was this whole notion of like, it's a numbers game. We just got to do all this stuff and get out in front of all these people. And, you know, just like you were saying, those conversion points and knowing what that process looks like. So you know how many touch points need to happen, like all of those things. And she's like, and she's in like the mergers and acquisitions HR consulting space. Like it's very specific what she does, very high trust to the point you made earlier, Jon. And she's like, I don't want 100 appointments on my calendar with leads. Like, that's not what I'm looking for. I don't have the bandwidth to take on that many clients. No. I just need like a handful of really good ones.
Yeah. And that's one of those things where being just self-aware of your business, where I should have also thought of that early on too. For some reason, I just thought the more, the better, right? More. It's like, but do you realize, Jon, that if you got as much business as you're looking for, you wouldn't even know what to do with yourself. You'd be so overwhelmed. Yeah. You'd be desperate to try to hire other people. And now your reputation is on the line based on somebody else's work who you don't even trust yet, who you haven't gotten up to speed yet. So there's a lot of considerations in business before we just think about growth, more money, more success. Yeah. What does success look like to us? And that's also around the lifestyle that we build around our business. And, that's a whole nother conversation, but usually it doesn't come back to mass messaging thousands of people.
Yes. Yeah. So it's not a numbers game, right? More isn't always better. We need to be more intentional. We need to build those relationships, be more focused, build that trust over time. So what are the things that you focus on now these days for your marketing?
Well, after our power hour, that helped me really dive into some of the clearer points that I need to do. And for me, it's posting and engaging on LinkedIn 5 times a week. That's really important. Monday through Friday. It's not about being on every social media platform, another quality versus quantity conversation. I was trying to stretch myself too thin and thinking about starting up a TikTok, and there's nothing wrong with any of these platforms, but pick the one or couple that you're going to be engaged on. For me, it's LinkedIn because that's where my target audience is. It's also the only one that I get off of feeling at least not worse than I felt when I got on, right? So there's that little
good
benefit
criteria.
Yeah, right. So I post and engage for 20 minutes on LinkedIn 5 times a week. You taught me as well how to create custom feeds. So I'm engaging with the right people, right? I'm engaging with the people who I want to see more of their content, and I want them to see my name also showing up on their posts. It's the reciprocity piece. I have a podcast, actually 2 podcasts, one that's more of a hobby that you've been on, Kristi, and then one where I'm just sharing some solo information that I think could be valuable. But I go at it not as this is a podcast to grow my business, but this is a podcast to share hopefully helpful information with people and build my authority in this niche. So that's what I do with a podcast, which is repurposed into some social media content. We talked about starting an email newsletter, which is what I have now. I have an email newsletter monthly. Again, just building trust by sharing valuable information. We talked about podcast guesting, which is something that I do. Last year, I was on over 30 podcasts. This year, I'm on pace for about that same amount again. So all of those efforts that you don't see payoff right away, but you are more committed and involved in your niche, in your area of expertise, you're becoming an authority and you're building relationships. That's what I'm focusing on now. I've seen an incredible amount of success and growth because of these simple little daily habits that I always thought were just mundane. Like I'll get around to that once I get the clients. It's kind of the opposite. You need to do that to grow your business.
Yeah. Oh, you're making so many great points here, Jon. I think the one I want to go back to specifically is you enjoy having conversations because you want to provide value. And you've been in my world long enough. I'm all about, we have to find the ways to show up that feel good to us, because then we're going to be bringing our best selves, and then people are going to be more connected with what we have to say. And it's going to have a greater impact, right? When we bring our negative energy, like, oh, I really don't want to go on Facebook. Like, I don't want to, but I have to, and let me do this thing. And right. It translates. Like you get out what you put in. And if you're not putting in your full heart to it, you're probably not going to see the results that you really want. So I was just telling someone this the other day, that how much I love being a podcast host. I love just having these conversations. And it really came from a place of, I was having all these discovery calls with, potential clients. And I'm hearing like, oh, I wasted money on this marketing thing. And oh, we wasted so much time doing this thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I keep having all these conversations, but I want other people to learn from them. I don't want this to just be a conversation between us where I can help you. I want that too, but I want other business owners to really learn from these other mistakes or missteps or things we would do differently, because there's so much value in that. And yeah, I've had people even tell me like, you're so fun to like, you have so much energy to your show. I've listened to other shows and they like put me to sleep. And I'm like, yeah, it's real. Like, this is real energy, because I really love having these conversations.
Yeah. Well, I am a little biased, but I think it's an amazing podcast. And I love how you bring to, the energy you bring as a host. And we have to remember why we're doing business. That's so important. Some of us lose sight of that. And we're just thinking dollar signs, growth, sales. Simon Sinek has a great book called Start With Why. And it's all about in business. Certainly some of us are in business to do good for the world. Some of us are in business, to make profit and help support our family, those kinds of things. There's nothing wrong with either direction of that, but remembering why we're in business and then why people hire us. They hire us not because, we've reached out to them a certain amount of times, even though somehow we've boiled it down to, you have to contact somebody 7.5 times to get their business. And it's like, that's actually not why. That's a metric that we've created. It's not why. So why is because of the value that we provide and the trusted relationship that we've built. So whatever that takes. And so we have to remember that really everything's about value. And so what value can we provide as service providers? If we strip it all the way down to that very basic point, it likely is going to change our approach to how we are looking for clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, there's something else I wanted to go back to too, that you were talking about, right? Like creating this content that's helpful, and right, is you want to help people. So you're creating content that is going to help people and teach them things and open up their eyes to things they didn't consider about podcasting or whatever the thing is. And I think that there's an opportunity too, to take those pieces of content that we build and still do that maybe colder outreach. I wanted to circle back to it because I think a lot of times cold outreach gets a negative connotation. A lot of people don't want to do it, right? Because we've been on the receiving ends of the really pushy, salesy, icky ones, and we don't want to do that. So we're like, we're not going to do it. But I think when we are leading our marketing efforts coming from that place of wanting to help and how can we educate and share information freely, those resources, be it a podcast or a downloadable thing or signing up for my email list or my Substack or whatever the thing is, those make a great tool to then offer that if you are doing some cold outreach and trying to connect with new people. Because again, you're leading with the value, not to your point that you said earlier, Jon, like reaching out just expecting to try and get a client from that interaction.
Right. Be careful how many times you write the word I in your cold outreach, because you're right. There is so much, value in potentially cold outreach. I mean, how do you reach new people, right? Like they're not going to just fall into your lap, but reaching them from the perspective of how can I provide value to this person? So example in my world, okay, I'm a podcaster. I host kind of 3 podcasts, my one solo, my one hobby, and then one local radio segment that airs here for nonprofits and community initiatives. What a great opportunity if I want to connect to someone to reach out to them and say, hey, I got this segment that I do. That's the end of I in the reach out message. That's the last time I'm using the I have this segment that I do. You would be an excellent fit to be on this segment because you could talk about this, and that. And people are like, well, but you're not pitching your services. You're not telling them that you're a podcast producer. You're not actually, how are they going to become your clients? I'm telling you, I've gotten clients that way. You start relationships, and by providing them value, by giving them the opportunity to beyond that segment to share their story. And it's genuine. It's not like, hey, I want you to be on my show so that after you're on my show, I can pitch you my product. It's not that. They need to be legitimately a good fit for the show. But the amount of people that have entered my world through either that segment or through, hey, here's this helpful resource that I thought could help you, or here's this person that I think you should know. That's the kind of cold outreach that I've been doing more of. And that's the kind of cold outreach that's actually worked. I got a grand total of 0 clients from that list that I bought. 0 clients, 1 kind of expensive lesson, right? Which is like every guest on your show, right? But I have gotten, dozens of business opportunities through value-based cold outreach. And it doesn't necessarily happen that day or that year even, but does work out. Expanding your horizons and building relationships with people in your community is the way to go.
Yeah. I love that example. That's such a great one. I was talking to someone too who just spoiler alert, this is, I mean, not that anyone who listens to the show would know this, but I'm going to try this tactic because I think it's a good one. She is a copywriter. She's really good at what she does, and she's looking for some new clients. And so she decided to just start kind of researching some potential. She works with coaches and consultants. Just start researching them, looking at their websites, their content, kind of noticing what looks good and where the areas of opportunity are. And so she's started sending them cold emails just to say, just to acknowledge those things. Like, hey, I noticed this. I love this about whatever. And there's also some things I noticed that you could improve on. And if you're interested, I made a Loom video for you and I'd be happy to send it over. So cat's out of the bag. I'm putting that out there. That's something I'm going to try because it's an example of what we're talking about. It's leading with value. I'm going to give you some free information that's specifically tailored to you and your business. And if you want to take it, by all means. And if you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah. That's the keys. You're going to find that you end up wasting time. You end up reaching out to people and spending more effort per reach out than you should for this person who ends up never replying to you, never getting back to you. Right. And so there is a little bit of that, but I always like to think, how long does it take me to reach out to each person that I'm cool reaching out to? If it's 30 seconds or under 5 minutes, even, that's too fast. That means that I haven't given any real thought to this reach out. If I, do something now, you don't want to spend an hour, doing this thing for this person that you don't even know is going to respond. But if I can do something, maybe create a little sample audio in my case or in your case, the Loom video, great idea. If you can do something of value, it shouldn't take less than 5 minutes to reach out to somebody. It should be something that is really thought out, leads with value. And that means that you're going to reach out to fewer people per week.
Yes.
But you're actually going to end up building more relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminded me of what you said, how you shifted your approach to reach out to fewer people, but with more intentionality and, authenticity behind it. So,
yeah, you got to find that thing. Yeah, you got to find that thing that works for you. For me, it's that segment. For you, it's probably, it's something completely different, right? But find that thing that's value leading first, and you'll see a lot of results.
Right. And like you were saying, why are we in business? For some of us, it truly is to help other people. And that structuring any sort of marketing initiative, whether it's cold outreach or whatever it is, coming from that place of truly wanting to help somebody else is a much different vibe that we're putting out there. It's a much different message than just, hey, do you want to work with me and hire me?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. With that said, do you want to work with me and hire me, Kristi? This would be great. I could produce your podcast.
Too late. I already have a guy for that.
I'm just kidding, because people also got to work with you too. That's important, because I do have to say that working with you has helped me immensely to just clarity. That's the key word, right? Because we're supposed to be doing all these different things. It's always like, do this, do that. You're missing out. You're doing it wrong if you're not on Instagram posting 3 times a day.
Yeah.
You've helped clarify. And sometimes it's just a matter of giving permission to say, nope, you don't have to do that thing. You have to do this thing. So if nothing else, people should follow you on LinkedIn and just, see your content and learn more about your framework.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It was a very nice little shout out. as we wrap it up here, because our time flew by like I knew that it would, is there any last lesson learned that you want to leave?
Quality over quantity, relationships first. Yep. As we've talked about. And also don't be afraid to ask those people who are closest to you. So we always talk about, finding new people, but there are people right in, maybe even in your own family who may know someone who's just not thinking that way, right? It's not obvious that your brother or sister is looking out for you to find business, and it's okay to ask. Those are the people already in your world. So while you don't want to cold reach out to any people that you don't know, that you haven't built a relationship with, and say, hey, you know anybody who could use my business? In a way, that is okay to do with the people who are really close to you, because you've already built that relationship and that trust with them.
Yes. Yeah. Such a great point. All right, Jon, you know how it goes. Last thing, how can people reach out to you and learn more about the work that you do?
Storytrust.media is the website. You can, if you're interested in getting more tips about audio content creation and podcast production, sign up for the free email newsletter. I also have a private podcast that you can sign up for too, up there at storytrust.media, and learn more. And as we like to say, turn your podcast into a content creation engine for your brand, so that you never have to worry about creating content again.
Yes. I love it. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jon. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on this side of the show. You're always on the other side. And thank you so much for your willingness to come on and share your experience and what you learned.
Thank you so much, Kristi. I hope this was helpful for the audience. And, thank you for all that you do too.
Of course. I'm sure it was. This will be great. All right. Thanks, Jon.